If you're a Canadian looking to save for your first home, you'll definitely want to pay attention to this. Starting on April 1st, 2023, the First Home Savings Account will finally become available to eligible Canadians. And in this video, we'll cover everything you need to know about the account, including its features, eligibility requirements, comparison to the first-time homebuyers plan, and more. So let's get started. What is FHSA? First things first, what exactly is the First Home Savings Account? Simply put, it's a special type of savings account that is registered with the government and that helps Canadians save for their first home. It was first proposed by the government in the 2022 budget, and it finally comes into effect on April 1st of 2023. You are able to open an FHSA and contribute up to $40,000 tax-free. If you are familiar with the existing RRSP, also known as the Registered Retirement Savings Plan, as well as the TFSA, the tax-free savings account, is basically the best features of these two combined. Like an RRSP, your contributions to the FHSA is tax deductible. For example, if you have $50,000 in net income and you contribute $8,000 in a year, your net income reduces to $42,000. But unlike an RRSP, in which withdrawals are taxable, it has features of the TFSA where withdrawals to purchase your first home would be non-taxable. There is an annual contribution limit of $8,000 per year up to the lifetime contribution limit of $40,000. So this means that it would take you 5 years to maximize your contribution room. And starting in 2023, you could actually start contributing your first $8,000 towards your FHSA. Eligibility. If you're eligible for the account, it can be a great tool to help you achieve your goal of home ownership. But who can actually open a first home savings account? Let's dive into the eligibility requirements. To open a first home savings account, you must be a Canadian resident who is at least 18 years old. You also need to be a first-time home buyer, which means that you have not owned a home that you lived in during the year before opening the account. So let's say 2023, or any time in the past 4 years. So let's say 2019 to 2022. So let's say that if you owned a home in 2018, but you no longer own it in 2019, you would actually qualify as a first-time home buyer in 2023. The FHSA is not a forever account and actually expires at a certain time. And that timing is either the earlier of 15 years after opening the FHSA or upon turning 71 years old. So whatever date happens earlier. And once your FHSA expires, whatever amount or whatever savings you have in that account rolls over into your RRSP without paying any taxes. But with the characteristics of an RRSP, once you take money out, once you make withdrawals, those withdrawals will be now taxable. So what does my money do in an FHSA? Similar to the TFSA, you are able to hold the same qualified investments such as stocks on the public stock exchange, GICs, as well as mutual funds. There are certain limitations on what you can invest in, such as land and shares in private companies. And also similar to the TFSA, you can't really use your FHSA like a trading account, or else the income you earn may be subject to tax. Also, it might be a good idea not to risk your savings on volatile investments, as you might lose your original deposit by the time you actually want to purchase your first home. Contributions. Let's get into some details about the annual contribution room. As mentioned, you have up to $8,000 per year once you open your FHSA. However, if you make contributions less than the $8,000, that unused room gets carried forward to the following year. For example, let's say that you contributed $5,000 in 2023, then in 2024, you could contribute up to $11,000. So this consists of the $8,000 for the contribution room in the year, plus the $3,000 that got carried over from 2023. And as you know, one of the benefits of an FHSA is that the contributions are tax deductible, but it's only the contributions that are made within the calendar year that will count towards your deductions for that particular tax year. You aren't given a buffer room like an RRSP, which gives you an additional 60 days in the following year to contribute to count towards your previous tax year. And of course, once you purchase your first home and make a withdrawal from the FHSA, any subsequent contributions will obviously not be deductible from your net income. Buying your first home, qualifying withdrawals. Withdrawals to purchase your first home are not taxable, but there are certain conditions that need to be met. First, as mentioned earlier, you need to be a first-time home buyer, which is specified as someone who hasn't owned a home during the year or any preceding 4 years. You also need to have a written agreement in place to buy your home by October 1st of the following year. So let's say you contribute to your FHSA for 5 years from 2023 to 2027, and then you decide to look for a home to buy and make withdrawals from your FHSA in 2027. In this case, you need to have a written agreement to buy the home before October 1st, 2028 of the following year in order to make your withdrawal a qualifying withdrawal. You also need to live in your home as your principal place of residence within 1 year of buying it. So your first home purchase cannot be used as an investment or rental property. Now, if you don't meet the criteria I just mentioned, your non-qualifying withdrawals from your FHSA will be taxable and included in your income. Non-qualifying withdrawals can be anything from last-minute cash you need to pay bills to even amounts that you pay towards a vacation. So it would be a good idea to budget and be aware of your cash needs, because when it comes to you making those withdrawals, your financial institution that holds your FHSA would actually hold back a portion of it for taxes before paying out the rest of your withdrawals. And unfortunately, making these non-qualifying withdrawals would also not restore your FHSA room. FHSA versus HBP. You may be familiar with the existing home buyer's plan, or HBP for short, that allows you to withdraw from your RRSP to buy your first home. You might be wondering what the main difference is between the new FHSA and the old home buyer's plan. And before we do the comparison, let me just give you some background on how the HBP works. HBP allows you to withdraw from your RRSP up to the $35,000 for your first home tax-free. However, there is a catch where you need to pay back the $35,000 in your RRSP for the next 15 years. So let's say if you take out the full $35,000, your repayments are going to be at least $2,335 per year. Otherwise, if you don't pay that back, the amount actually gets included in your income. And if you want to learn more about how RRSPs work, such as the contribution room and tax deductions, make sure to check out my video up above here, which I will link. So now that you know how the HBP works in a nutshell, you could compare the main differences between the HBP and the FHSA. So if we were to just go over some pros, some advantages of the FHSA, they would be that the FHSA has a higher withdrawal limit of $40,000 versus the $35,000 in the HBP. So it's $5,000 higher. And another main benefit is that for the FHSA, you do not need to pay it back. Period. Once you make the withdrawal, that's it, as long as it's a qualifying purchase on a home. In the case of the HBP, you would need to pay it back over 15 years. However, the disadvantage with the FHSA is the extended time period of 5 years to really take advantage of the $40,000 lifetime contribution room, which is limited by a maximum of $8,000 per year. As for the HBP, you could contribute to your RRSP up to the contribution limit of $30,780 in 2023 if your previous year's earned income is $171,000 or more. So the HBP might be the preferred option for you in the following cases. If you had a sudden increase in income to take advantage of the higher RRSP contribution room, if you have enough savings to contribute to your RRSP to really take advantage of the $35,000 threshold, and you're looking to buy a home relatively soon in the next year or two. Transfers. Depending on whether the FHSA or HBP works for you, you are able to transfer funds between your FHSA and RRSP on a tax-free basis. Transfers from the FHSA into an RRSP would not reduce or be limited by your RRSP contribution room. However, transfers from your RRSP into your FHSA would depend on your FHSA contribution limits. Though you do need to be wary about the implications of such transfers, and for transfers from an RRSP into an FHSA, the transfers would not reinstate your RRSP contribution room, nor would those transfers be deductible. So there you have it, a condensed overview of the first time home savings account, how it works, who's eligible, and some important things to keep in mind. If you're a first-time home buyer in Canada, this account can be a great way to save for your dream home. If you're looking to learn more about 2023 tax changes that directly affect you, check out my video on important tax changes for Canadians over here. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!